And we are live. Hi, Kian Ming. Thanks for doing the podcast. Yes, guys, we got a special guest today. OKM, aka former Deputy Minister of International Trade, Member of Parliament for Bangi and Serdang, formerly. And guys, we also have Vishnu helping us with the AV today, and he'll be joining in to give his thoughts whenever he feels like. Thanks, Vishnu, for joining us.
No worries.
Yeah. Why do you agree to do my podcast? I feel like my content is very
Random.
very random. You can say explicit.
Retarded.
It's retarded. It's a harsh way to put it.
Not very politically correct word. I wouldn't use that. I mean, you reached out to me through Instagram, I think. Yeah.
To be honest, right, I feel very comfortable when I have my comedian friends on, comics, buddies, people we can just talk shit with and just have a good time. Topics are free flowing, but also I kind of want to push myself, out of the ordinary a bit. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit nervous to do this podcast with you.
No worries. Yeah.
Many people, even I asked my buddies about those people who know stuff about the political scene, all have a very high view of you. That you're a very intelligent person.
Yeah, but I think I can also talk about more general topics. So and that's one of the reasons why I agreed to come to your podcast, because not everything is about politics, right?
So I need to ask also. Now you are. Okay, let's just address this straight away.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say you're officially retired from the political scene?
No, I've never said I am officially retired. Yeah. I am no longer in frontline politics because I'm no longer an elected representative. But I'm still helping out the party. I'm still a DAP member. I'm still holding the position of DAP Selangor State Treasurer. Yep. Although we'll see what happens after the state elections later this year. So I'm still helping out the party.
We'll see what happens.
And I've gone on public on public record to say that if the opportunities arise, I'll be happy to consider coming back into elected office.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait to see what happens, whether the party feels I still can contribute closer to the next general elections.
In 2022, you gave up your your Bangi seat.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, what was the reason for that?
I've given the reasons, in terms of me wanting to take a step back, to rest a bit, and also to give a younger person a chance to be the MP for that seat. My successor, who's a young lawyer called Shahril Johan. So all those reasons are valid, but maybe I just want to add on a bit lah. And this is something that many people don't get to hear and see. Here, I'm recording with you on a weekend, on a Sunday. I went for a morning run at Bukit Kiara just now. I had coffee in Common Man Roasters in TDDI. If I was still an elected rep, I would never get this chance. Weekends are crazy full. I have to go out for events very early in the morning to do gotong royongs, to have Hari Raya events once Raya starts. My weekends are basically not my own anymore. And I have my record, to let you know, on a weekend, I had 22 events to attend over Saturday and Sunday.
So there's 10 events a day?
Yes, actually closer to 11, but
Yeah.
So it's crazy. And
all
these things, the public doesn't really get to see in terms of headline publicity, but we have to do it on a.
They see it if they are following your account and you just so happen post every single event you've been to, but that's not the case.
We don't. Many. Yes, there's too many. So and it gets very tiring. It drains me. It also means that because I was the MP for the largest constituency in Malaysia, in Bangi, the events are more than normal. And it really doesn't allow me to do other stuff like policy work, understand what's happening with the economy, really value add in areas of strength, that I have based on my education and corporate experience. So I thought, look, I need to take a step back for my own personal mental health and sanity, and also to spend more time with my wife.
I was about to ask you about that. So you've been married since
2004. This is my 20th wedding anniversary.
Your wife, is she working or stay at home?
She's an architect by training. We actually met when we were in high school in Singapore. We were both ASEAN scholars. I was in RI, she was in TK. That time we hadn't started going out, but we reconnected later on, and then we started going out. She moved back from Australia. Actually, she was in Melbourne at the time. She studied architecture in the University of Sydney.
Basically sort of your high school sweetheart that you've only connected with after high school.
Yeah, you can say that. Yeah, you can say that. High school friend that became my girlfriend and then now my wife.
Was there always an attraction in high school?
I think she would say, if you ask her, if you're on this podcast, she would say that I was very irritating.
It was one-sided, you can say.
Yeah, you probably could say that. Yeah, but thankfully she saw through some of my more irritating characteristics and decided to overlook them, and we've been happily married for 20 years.
Something my dad has been saying to me since I was very young. I was in primary school. Around primary school, I can't remember how old. He would always tell me that girls love it when you tease them. So maybe that was you irritating.
maybe, but I think maybe it's not so much teasing. I think it's to give them some attention, and I think over time, what I've really found out is that you have to spend quality time with your spouse or your girlfriend.
Yes.
Do you have a...
No, I'm not seeing anyone at the moment, but yes, I have also only found that out later on in my life that we are indeed females and males very, very different creatures. Guys don't demand the same attention.
Yes.
Of course, they do enjoy it when they're with their partner. We all like to be manja lah. Okay, as much as we don't admit it. But
we also need to have like our guy time, to do guy stuff.
A lot of that. Girls, for them, they see it's different. For us, right? We maybe some guys, okay, we do see an interest and satisfaction in nurturing, but for girls, they love it. They love nurturing. They love taking care. I can't say for all, but somewhere in today's
the maternal instinct, I would say.
Yes. I'm actually very interested to know, you have a PhD, right, in political science?
Yeah, a PhD in political science.
Yeah, so I'm always interested to know, the sort of upbringing or the sort of student you were, growing up. You've already had your sights set on the political scene since a very young age.
Don't get me wrong. I never wanted to get into politics.
Then explain.
I never really. It was never my intention to get into frontline politics lah. Like many people of my kind of education profile, I actually studied economics at LSE and at the undergraduate level, and then I did my master's in Cambridge. I worked in BCG as a management consultant. So I've always charted a path for myself in the corporate world.
So let's rewind a bit also. You grew up around in KL, PJ?
Yeah, I'm a PJ boy. I went to LaSalle PJ, and then after that I went to Singapore on a government.
LaSalle, is that a boys' school? If I'm not mistaken?
It's a boys' school. Yeah, okay. Jalan Gasing PJ. Where did you go to school?
BU4 is just in front of Wanatama.
Okay.
So I sometimes I would say at Wanatama is like my second home. Did Ponting school and go to Wanatama. Sure. Very tempting, right in front. So were you always very academically inclined?
I like to study. I love to study. I still enjoy studying and reading books and trying to understand issues at a deeper level, which actually helped me quite a bit when I was in politics. Yeah, because
of course,
I think the value proposition that I was trying to bring to the table was maybe a more academic, a more policy-oriented approach. Because what I saw in Parliament at that time and even now is that and which is what you probably see in the news is people shouting at one another. You don't know what they're shouting about, but they're shouting at one another.
So I even had a question. One of the listeners also even gave a question about this. I wanted to actually have a segment for questions at the end, but since we're on the topic right now,
sure, we can
let's just explore this. So this is from white_vanilla sky. Thanks for the questions. You gave a lot of questions. I'll probably use definitely a couple of them. Is the verbal abusing and fighting in the parliament just for show? Are you guys actually all just friends off camera? Referring to the politicians.
So, part of it is for show. I think they want to show not just the larger audience, but maybe among the colleagues, among the leaders within the respective parties, that they can stand up and defend the position of the respective party. So, on a particularly sensitive issue, there will be the opposition who want to attack. So I'll give you an example. When the housing minister YB Ngakoming proposed the recognition of the Chinese New Villages as a UNESCO heritage site, then definitely there will be members of the opposition who, during this parliamentary session, use that point to attack him, right? To show that, look, I'm doing my part to attack and to bring up this issue, to, rile up people's feelings on this issue. And then on the side of, my party, the DAP, there will be some MPs who would feel compelled to defend while being asked position, to say that actually, he later on also proposed to have Indian and also Malay kampungs or villages to be part and parcel of that UNESCO, application process lah. So, each of them have their own ways of trying to show their political positions or presence.
Yeah. By any chance, do you know Dr. Inky? A skin doctor. He's also now a very big content creator, 400,000 over followers on
Malaysian
Instagram.
guy, is it?
Yes, Dr.
Wow.
Inky.
Okay. How do you spell the name?
INGKY. Not, if I'm not mistaken, should be around your age. Yeah. You can search him up if you want.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's we chatted briefly about politics, and he was saying like, when you see all this like hoo-ha in the parliament and all, it's sort of the politicians trying to show their constituents that they're alive. And as you can, as we know, right, like as the elections are coming in, they ramp up the antics and hoo-has and all to show their presence. Something interesting he also said is they're actually all friends. This is his words, because they eat together in the parliament canteen, right? PAS, UMNO, DAP, all. We are all eating in the same cafeteria, so of course exchange greetings and all every day.
That's not quite true lah. I mean, yes, we are in the parliamentary hall together. Sometimes we will eat together and discuss stuff, whether in the parliamentary hall, maybe other private discussion sessions when we need to discuss something more private and more important. But, we are colleagues in that sense of all 222 MPs and also the senators, in that we understand what it means to be a member of parliament. We understand the kind of roles that we have to play in parliament and outside parliament. So it's just like, let's say you are playing, you're a football player for Arsenal or Liverpool.
Do you follow football by any chance?
Yeah, my team is Liverpool. But I follow more closely NBA. NBA is more passionate about that. My team is Cleveland Cavaliers. Okay. This is before LeBron James. So
before LeBron James?
Yeah, before. So imagine if, let's say, you were an NBA player. You're LeBron on the Lakers side. You are Giannis on the Bucks side. No, you're colleagues in the sense that you are playing for the league.
Yeah, right? Even though you're playing against each other.
Yeah, but... do you hang out a lot necessarily? Probably not. You go for the All-Star game. You may have some social events and things like that. So I would say that we are colleagues, but not necessarily friends lah.
Yeah. Got your acquaintances lah. Also another way to put it.
Yeah, but within the party, then within the same coalition, then we'll have to work more closely together.
Yeah, and also a lot of the times you guys have the same beliefs, ideas, and all lah.
Yes, at least on paper, in terms of the direction of the party, what the leadership will have priorities on. But of course, now in the case of the Unity Government, you have BN and specifically UMNO together with Pakatan Harapan. So the question that many people ask, I'm not sure whether you'll be curious about it. No, would be so PH talks a lot about reform and things like that in the past. Is that still the same commitment? Especially since maybe UMNO doesn't share the same kind of priorities. GPS in Sarawak may not share the same priority. So this is a struggle and a challenge that the different leaders in the coalition government has to face.
So can you briefly explain also, like, how did we end up in a unity government?
So basically you had a situation, historic situation where no one coalition had a majority. Right, so PH had the most number of seats, and then followed by PN, and then you had the Sarawakian and the Sabahan parties, and also BN. So then the situation arose where you had to form a government, with different kind of permutations and combinations. And at the end of the day, because of certain historical relationships that Anwar had with the BN leader, the UMNO president Zahid Hamidi. That agreement was had. DAP supported whatever decision that Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, made. And once PH and UMNO came together, BN came together with a majority of seats, then that's when the Sarawakian and the Sabahan parties came along, and that's how this unity government was formed with, I think, over 18 parties, if I'm not mistaken.
So it will remain like this until
So it will remain stable. It will remain in government until the next general elections lah.
Yeah.
What happens after the next general election, or even how they campaign during the next general election, I think that one is still under negotiation.
Do you have any predictions for that, or is that too far away?
Too far away. I have my own thoughts, but I think the crucial thing here it would be how the Unity government performs in terms of delivering on the economy, delivering on certain social policies, delivering on how it wants to be an effective government from different angles.
Which is, there's still time for them to display that.
There's still time, but sometimes time can fly by you, and before you know it,
you are here at the election.
Yes, correct.
How do you think they're doing so far as a Unity government, though?
I think plus and hits and misses lah. I would say in terms of a scorecard, I would give the Unity government 5 out of 10. Yeah, so barely passing.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean not fail.
Yep.
The opposition would say that the government has failed. I would say that on the whole 5 out of 10, some ministries are doing better than others. I think my former ministry, MITI, I think both the minister and the deputy are doing pretty well. But some of the other ministries, I think they still have a lot of room for improvement. Yeah. What do you think? I mean, if let's say I were to ask the both of you, how would you rate the government? I mean, based on your knowledge, obviously it's not as comprehensive as mine, but you guys are voters. You guys are...
You want to start, Vishnu?
Yeah, so I guess in that sense, because prior to the nationwide elections, before Anwar took office, there were all these big promises and all that he used to say. Even before the election where Mahathir won, there were a lot of reforms that he had spoke about, like this is going to happen, maybe petrol prices are going to increase. This is just just an example, right? And obviously a lot of those things are not met yet. So are they were they just to get the people to vote for them, or are they actually working to it?
But it's tougher than it seems.
I'll answer that question soon. Sure. But I want to press you in terms of what is the mark you'll give to this government?
Yeah, I would say
out of 10.
I would possibly say about a 6 or so as well.
6 lah. Okay. Okay. So Brian, how about you?
I would say a 5 lah. If my opinion actually means anything lah.
Well, it does. People listen to your podcast, and I think you're also trying to educate yourself in terms of what's going on.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So many young people are in your position, in terms of wanting to find out more, wanting to find out what the government has done. And to go back to your question, Vishnu, was it just empty talk? I would say no, because if you look at the 2018 elections and what happened after that, we had a manifesto, and there was actually close tracking of what the different ministries did in terms of fulfilling different aspects of the manifesto. It's just that from a communication standpoint, it wasn't really done, I think, as well as we could, because a lot of the ministers were new at that time. So I'll give you a couple of examples. Under the PH government, one of the things in the manifesto was to introduce a 100 ringgit unlimited travel pass under the Ministry of Transportation in the Klang Valley. So this is your LRT, your MRT, your bus and all that.
A one-off thing, or is it 100 ringgit?
No, it's a monthly pass. It's a monthly pass. You obviously don't take public transportation. Yeah, but Vishnu probably knows about this, and that has been reduced to 50 ringgit. Right, so that was in the manifesto. I put it in there because I was part of the manifesto drafting committee, and I put it in there based on my experience using public transportation in Singapore. And Anthony Loke implemented it, when he was minister. So that's one. Another thing is, actually, when you use the North-South Highway, right, you go and look at some of the charges. The charges are quite weird, it's like 82 cents. I'm not sure whether you notice. And the reason why it's 82 cents and not $1 was because the PH government negotiated an 18% decrease in the toll rates on the North-South Highway. We couldn't abolish the tolls because it would have been very expensive, but we did come out with a policy to actually reduce that. So there were things done, but most people don't know that there was a PH government policy, right? Yeah, so I think, we need to be more bold in terms of announcing and linking ourselves with good policies. The different parliamentary reforms and all that kind of stuff was also done under PH. But the reason why I think I'm a bit more concerned about the performance of this government is that, number one, there's no manifesto, or the manifesto is actually not being followed.
Can I ask about so each so now we are in a unity government, right? But each party themselves have their own manifesto. So when they form into a unity government, what happens to the manifesto? Did they have to create a new one?
So, from a sort of like a policy alignment perspective,
Yeah.
what the government is trying to do and what they should do is to look at the manifestos of different coalitions, GPS, GRS, BN, and also PH, and find common ground.
Yeah.
So, for example, one common ground is most of the parties in Peninsular Malaysia, most of the two main coalitions, and I think even Perikatan, agree that there should be amendments to the on the citizenship issue that would allow children born to Malaysian mothers outside Malaysia to have an automatic right to Malaysian citizenship.
Yep.
Right, so that was actually found in all manifestos.
Okay.
So that's an area of commonality. Again,
Yes.
people may not know this, but I've actually studied this and I know this. So to find alignment there, I think is important. But just to let you guys know, most of the leaders in the parties, they actually don't know the details of the manifestos. It is designed by people at the lower level like myself. I wasn't involved in the design of the 2022 manifesto because my experience in the 2018 manifesto was that if, let's say, I know the top leaders are not going to buy into this, then I know that implementation will not be consistent.
But how long is the list of manifesto that the leader doesn't have the time to actually look through it? Or
For the 2022 manifesto, I think there were maybe about 30 to 40 items.
doesn't seem too much, for the leaders to actually have a.
Okay, so here's another thing that you guys should know about politicians on both sides.
Yes.
Most of them actually are not very policy focused, and the reason is this, and the reason is also linked to the kind of shouting and all the antics that you see in Parliament. They are there. The instinct is actually to play politics, not to talk about and design good policies. The design of good policies usually will come from civil servants.
Someone like yourself.
Well, I would say I'm at that time I was a politician, but I'm more on the technocratic side. And because of my training, I'm able to actually, design policies and see things from different points of view. But even then, my experience and capabilities as a policymaker was enhanced only when I was in government, right? And I was able to enhance those tools because I have a good base. Right, so think of
You mean your education or the?
education, exposure to the corporate world. So think of it. We
Yeah.
go back to the sports analogy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, sure.
Let's say you watch the NBA.
No.
Okay.
I used to follow football.
Football.
I follow a lot of UFC now.
Okay,
MMA,
okay,
Yeah.
okay. UFC, that one maybe a bit harder because it's more of an individual sport, whereas for politics, it's more of a team sport.
Yes.
But let's say for the NBA,
Yeah.
you may start off at the high school level, right? And
Sure.
you develop a certain skill set. And then
Yeah.
you go to college, you represent a good team, you develop an even better skill set. And then you go to NBA, you further refine those skill sets. But it's from a good base, right? Imagine if, let's say, you're coming in to the NBA, without having a strong foundation. And you are sort of like a person who basically goes out to hack people only, right?
Yeah.
Then when you go to the NBA, that's the thing that you will focus on because that's what you're good at.
So it's a very simple way to put it is there's the brains and there's the bronzer.
Not quite. You see, many politicians are smart, but the way they utilize their brain is for political objectives, not for policy objectives. My idea would be the two can marry together.
Define political objectives.
So political objectives, I'll get back to you, Vishnu, would be like, I go out and attack this politician on the other side so that I can look good in front of my party leaders. Right? That would be a political strategy to achieve a political objective of trying to get promotion within the party hierarchy, for example.
Your stock
Within the party.
Yeah, to your constituents.
No, not the constituents, to the party. You have to remember, when as a politician, right, there are a few constituents that you have to report to. The most important is actually your party. It's not the voters. It's the party, because the party is the one that nominates you. If the party don't nominate you, you may be the most popular MP. You're not going to be able to get re-elected as a member of parliament if you fall out with the party. Right, so if somehow you serve your constituents very well, you're very popular, but the party leader doesn't like you for one reason or another, you've offended him or her, then you don't do your part in parliament or whatnot. You're not seen as delivering value.
Yeah.
Then in parliament and in the political arena or landscape, you are downgraded and you may even lose your seat.
Okay, understand.
Ah.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't think about
Yeah,
that.
so
but
the constituents would be number one, your political,
Your colleagues,
leaders in your party. Number two will be your constituents, because if you don't serve your constituents well, then your chances of being able to win that seat, if it's a marginal seat, will also be affected. And then the party leaders will say, "Hey, I better change this guy," right? And then the third one would be maybe some sort of a larger national audience that are in addition to your constituents, which I tried to do, where I try to talk about national issues. Talk about economics, talk about education policy and things like that. Vishnu, you wanted to ask a question?
No.
Okay.
Well explained, really.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can see there are all these different intricacies which also makes the job of a politician very tiring. Look, like for me, I just want to do a good job as an MP. I want to talk about policies in Parliament, do my research, release press statements that are relevant. The part that I enjoy the least is the party politics.
I see.
I have to go and kowtow to this guy. I have to go and suck up to another fella because I need his votes or that person's vote for party elections. If let's say I have to do that as part and parcel of a larger, bigger picture, wanting to develop the country and all that, and we are all on the same page on this, then I don't mind doing it. But if let's say I have to do this and then end up these guys are playing the same political game that others in parties that we oppose are doing, then how different are we from them? Right? Especially now in this context where suddenly it becomes much clearer already. A lot of people are playing the political game so that they can put themselves in positions where they can become a minister and deputy minister. You're going up the hierarchy. Whereas before, when DAP was in perpetual opposition at the federal level, there's much less of this happening.
What was the reason that there was much less of this?
There's much less at stake. Yeah, much less at stake. So I don't really care so much if I'm in the Central Executive Committee, because as long as I'm given a seat, I can do whatever I want as an MP. Yeah. But then in this context where being in the CEC, being in elected office within the party hierarchy becomes more important, because the higher up I am, the more chance I have to claim the position of a deputy minister or a minister, regardless of whether I'm qualified or not. Regardless of whether I have the capabilities to become a good minister.
How you perform also regardless.
Yes.
Yeah.
As long as I have enough votes, as long as I'm able to get higher position because I ally with enough people, then my claim towards a minister, deputy minister position would be higher. I'm not saying that it is happening all across the board within DAP. It probably happens more in other parties like UMNO and MCA, but it's slowly creeping up within the DAP. Yeah, I can say this because right now, I'm not an elected rep, and there's much less at stake for me, but for others, it's not the same.
Yeah, maybe you can talk a bit about your role right now in DAP, and not participating in the frontline politics.
Yeah, so maybe I would step back and say my role in terms of value added to how to influence and talk about different policies in the country. And I'm doing that, in a non-frontline way, engaging with different people in different policy areas. So I'll give one example. Do you have a 5G phone?
Yes.
But do you sort of like read the headlines to say that, which say that Malaysia's 5G rollout and speeds one of the highest globally?
Oh, I'm not sure, but is it?
Yes, it is. So it's tested by UCLA, and I actually have I bought a couple of 5G phones on different networks so I can do UCLA tests in different places.
Just to test it.
And also when I have two phones, I'm actually more efficient. I can do social media on one and then check Google on the other one.
Okay.
And use Google Maps on one and then check my WhatsApp messages on the other. So this 5G thing is actually quite important because if we're able to roll it out, and we have done it quite successfully under a different model whereby a government entity called Digital National Berhad was and is in charge of rolling out the 5G ecosystem, then you'll be able to bring in good enterprise use cases. What do I mean by this? You know that Apple has rolled out their new VR headset. I can't remember what it's called.
I think it's called
Vision Pro.
Yeah, Vision Pro. Yes, Vision Pro. Yeah, that's a consumer product, right? Imagine if, let's say, you can do Vision Pro on an enterprise kind of level, and let's say I do it, maybe on my part on the education space, rather than teaching students using PowerPoint slides in a classroom. Can I do an immersive teaching ecosystem where you put on your headsets, can be anywhere as long as there's a good 5G connection?
You mean having school and classes anywhere as long as there's 5G? Is that what you're saying?
More on university level.
University.
But it's an immersive kind of experience whereby, let's say, you study marketing, right?
Yeah.
Imagine if, let's say, I were to give you a marketing class or lecture. Then, real time, I will be able to bring in adverts from Microsoft, from Coca-Cola, from some of the Chinese brands. And I can show you, it's in your headset, right? And then I can show you, okay, this is, then I can compare. It's like a Minority Report, right? Doing the kind of different kind of graphic kind of simulations and all that, right? So then, and imagine I take it further, because of the fast 5G deployment in this VR ecosystem, right? I can give you, I can measure your brain waves, meaning if I show you a particular advertisement, suddenly your brain gets peaked, and I can know that real time, and I'm able to have AI algorithms to help me process that. So that when you respond to this...
Okay, so previously, what you're saying is previously, let's say if they want to see how an ad is performing, they're going to base it off. It's not real time because they have to see your attention span, your view time or whatever.
Okay, so in the past, what people would do is they will have some sort of a measurement thermometer. If you like it, then you put it to a higher rating, right? But nowadays with technology, with real time kind of processing power, using generative AI and other chips, you'll be able to see, suddenly my eyelids dilate within the VR ecosystem, right? If you are able to put in, measurement of brain waves and other things, then suddenly you can know this is not from advertising, this is from a teaching perspective, right? And then I'm able to actually customize the class for you.
Oh, that is very.
You see where I'm going?
I do see where you're going. Very, very, very interesting. Yeah. I think something to point out also. I think there is a new subject that will be implemented in schools. In 2007, right?
2027, you mean, or
2027? Sorry, yes.
2007 was a bit before.
And AI subject, basically. I can't remember exactly what's the name of the subject. Do you remember?
Well, the government has rolled out, something called AI.gov.my. Basically, is an intro kind of exposure for people to understand what AI is about and what and so on and so forth, lah. But to go back to that 5G discussion that I want to close off, basically, what I'm involved in is trying to look for use cases, whether it's in education, in smart manufacturing, in autonomous vehicle testing, to try to bring in different players, especially on an investment perspective, to see how we can make use of the underlying infrastructure that we have in terms of the good 5G speeds that we have, and what kind of to build that ecosystem, right? So this is something that is possible because of my former position as a Deputy Minister of MITI, because of my corporate experience at BCG, because of what I'm doing now, in terms of thinking about education delivery at Taylor's University, and also talking to different people in the corporate sector.
What is your involvement in this project?
I'm trying to put together different players so that they can roll out and present use cases in different fields. So I call myself a policy entrepreneur. Policy entrepreneur meaning I want to advocate for good policies using good use case examples so that people in government and also in the corporate sector can see how value added propositions can be put on the table. Good policies can be designed to sort of like catalyze some of these projects in ways that are tangible and also hopefully can be done relatively quickly.
What is the name of the company that is working on this again?
So there are different companies, different organizations. I'm not at liberty to say this or the other, but put it this way. When you talk about generative AI, 5G, there are a lot of companies out there, but there are not that many good use cases yet. So that is something that we want to try to push the envelope on. So let me give you an example. Do you play games?
Yes, I do play games.
PC games?
PC games. Used to play a lot of PlayStation. Console. But up to PS2, computer, I'll play Dota. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, so let's say for Dota, right, you are still using PC kind of virtual right?
Yeah.
Imagine if, let's say, you could do a Ready Player One kind of virtual.
VR.
Yeah.
Have you tried out VR games?
I want to buy the PS5 to try out the VR version of a game that I really like called Horizon Zero Dawn. Have you heard of it before?
What sort of game is it? A RPG or FPS?
How do you call it? It's a RPG game, but it's sort of like a borderless world kind of concept.
Wait, RPG game? Are you talking about like
role playing lah? Yeah. So
with
you're taking a
creatures
character
and magic
yes,
and
exactly,
all. Oh.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like Dungeons and Dragons, but
Yes.
more sophisticated.
When I was younger, I was very immersed into online RPG games. I can't imagine being able to be in that world in VR.
Yeah, so they are developing that now.
Yeah.
So for this particular game, Horizon Zero Dawn, they actually can buy VR headsets to play one expansion pack of this particular game lah. So I've read some reviews. They said some parts are good, some parts still a little bit, but it's part and parcel of the experiential process lah. Yeah, which I think I would want to experience when I've a bit more time to try these things out.
I think that would be so highly addictive,
Well, that's where the control has to come in. I used to be quite addicted to some of these PC games as well, Civilization 3 and all the real-time strategy
Age
games.
Age of Empires,
StarCraft,
Red
StarCraft, yes, Dune 2, for those who still remember those times.
Did you ever play Diablo?
Yeah.
Diablo.
Yeah. So Diablo 1, 2, 3. Now they have they're gonna launch. I think they already have a PS5 version. I think if I'm not mistaken.
On the PS? No, the last Diablo I played, I didn't even play 3. I was playing Diablo 2. But that was a long time ago. I really liked that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I play these games not just to play the games for fun, but I also want to try to understand the ecosystem, understand the economics in terms of the digital economy that these games can provide. And also looking at possible use case, in the enterprise area, like including VR, usage of 5G. Because one of the things that 5G provides that is very important for gamers is that it has something called low latency, right? Basically, there's no lag lah. Right, lag will kill you lah. Literally, not literally, but yeah.
Yeah, but why so? Like in VR, there is no lag.
Sorry, in 5G. For 5G, there's
5G,
no lag
not
because
VR,
the speeds are much higher lah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
and low latency because the kind of streaming experience, because you see for 5G, right, the technology has basically shifted to streaming data already, right? Whereas for 2G, it's still voice, right? 3G is a mixture of both. 4G moving towards more data already. For 5G, it's basically almost all data. Right, so even now, if I ask you, if you're going to make a call to your friend, right, the default that you use is probably WhatsApp call, right? You don't call using the
he does that a lot. Yeah.
Don't you do that as well?
I mean, I try not to because connections are not the best. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you have a good 5G connection,
then it's fine.
Yeah, and think of it, you would make the call using voice, but over your data provider. But imagine if you wanted to, instead of calling a person and say, okay, let's go to this VR room and let's go and hang out there. Right? You just make a call, put on your headsets, you're in there. Ready Player One lah.
Yeah. Sounds really fun.
Yeah, but we have to find more of these use cases. You see, the development of technology is a bit of like an S-curve lah. Once you reach an inflection point, suddenly the use cases will just explode lah. Just like at one point in time, people didn't really think that Google Play Store or Apple Play Store would have enough apps in it.
Yeah.
But once you reach a certain turning point, right?
So you really think that's going to happen also?
Yeah, with 5G and then deployment of now 5.5G, using lower latency devices and even moving on to 6G later on. So yeah, definitely we are moving towards that direction.
What do you think about Neuralink? Elon Musk, his baby.
Sure. So, he's always a leader in terms of technology vision. And I think whatever he does, we should pay attention to it. But not all of the projects that he does will be successful. So he had a project that was called, I think, a Hyperloop or something like that. To transport people very quickly across long distances.
How long ago was this?
This was maybe a few years back, and this was to sort of like because the capex.
So it's a transportation.
Yeah. So for capex for let's say a high speed rail,
Yes.
it's quite high. and he wanted to do something a little bit more innovative. So it's like, imagine like a long tube.
Like
Right.
what you see in those futuristic movies.
Yeah.
Futurama is one of them.
Yeah,
So Futurama.
So yeah, I've seen that as well. So,
Okay.
but I don't think the technology is at a point where we can do that safely yet. But again, it's a vision that he has, just like how he wants to, send people off to Mars and all that. So that kind of vision, I think, is something that is necessary to drive technological innovations, lah, right?
Yep.
But for me, if let's say we can have something that is a bit more mass market, a bit more here and now, some of the things that we talk about just now from a VR perspective, I think that would be more sort of like
More
impactful,
practical,
more practical.
Yeah. So, your thoughts on Neuralink?
Yeah, lah. Wait and see, lah.
Wait and see. Still a lot more.
Yeah, the devil is in the detail, lah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, just like how I talk about my immersive education experience, right? I think I have the concept, but I haven't really sat down to think about what are the technological innovations that would be needed to get us on a step-by-step basis to the end goal that I want. Because there are different things that needs to be done, from a policy design and technological technology provision standpoint.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
Still a long way to go. Yeah. Something also that I really want to get your thought on is cryptocurrency. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of smart people, well-respected people in the finance industry that also just brashly says accuse it of being a straight up Ponzi scheme, pyramid scheme. What are your actual thoughts on the whole cryptocurrency?
Okay, so let's take a step back. Cryptocurrencies are built on the building blocks of blockchains.
Yeah.
Right. If I were to ask you, what is your understanding of a blockchain?
Some blocks where you stack them up together. No,
What are the characteristics of a blockchain?
I don't know, to be honest. And the crazy thing is, I've read many times, I still cannot understand.
There are a couple of characteristics of blockchain that I think, at a basic level that you need to understand.
Okay.
Firstly, it is something that's decentralized.
Yes.
Right? Meaning that no one person will control it.
Yeah, no banks
Or any other organization
Yeah.
that wants to do their blockchain. It may not be banks, it may be government, it may be another private entity. So it's decentralized. Second thing, there is what they call a distributed ledger, which means that there is a way in which you can have a level of security within the blockchain that is more secure because you can trace the process of ownership, right? Like Bitcoin, for example.
Yeah.
Right? So it is not something that you can just create in your backyard.
What do you mean you can trace the ownership? I mean, can't you do that with regular tradings?
No? So if let's say I give you a 10 ringgit note,
Yeah.
do you know who owned it before that?
You mean the person before you that passed it to me?
How about before that?
Okay.
How about before
okay.
that?
Yeah, like so before
about
you
before
and
that?
before you all, you don't know.
Uh-huh.
Okay, understand.
Right? So you may not know the person who owns it, but you're able to trace the kind of ownership process. Right?
How many times it's been moving around?
And for certain blockchains, you may want to be able to identify who the owner is. For Bitcoin, you may not want because of the things that they are doing, but there's still a distributed ledger component to it where there is a process tracing. You change ownership from one to another, it is recorded in the ledger that is decentralized, which is what you call the distributed ledger. Right, so it's decentralized. There is a sort of like a process where the ownership, writ large, broadly defined, can be traced, and then within this, there's the security element as well, whereby if you want, you can limit the amount of transactions or the volume of this particular asset that's related to this blockchain. So Bitcoin, there's a limited amount, there's finite amount. That's why you need to spend more computing power to mine more and more of this stuff. But it can be actually individualized asset, or even if you want to do a painting or some sort of an asset that is purely only in the digital space, right? It was in rage, in fashion, as recent as last year. Right, all your different images and stuff like that you could sell on.
You're talking about
blockchain.
NFTs.
Exactly.
NFTs.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. So that craze has gone down. Yes. But I think for me, the use case for blockchains have not been proven. Not to say they cannot, but I think the sort of like killer app would be if you can find a way to use blockchain in for the mass market. That is when I think blockchain can really gain acceptance among the corporates, among government, because some people are talking about using blockchain as currencies that you can use all over the place.
Yeah.
But that technology is I think not very mature yet. Some countries like Ecuador has tried to do it using Bitcoin as official currency, but it's not easy to do. It's not like you go and use your touch and go app and start making payments.
No, but if let's say in Ecuador they were trying to do that, doesn't that mean that the people also all have to put their money into that?
No, because the aspiration of the government was that, but I don't think it's been properly executed on the ground now. Because it's not as easy as suddenly Bank Negara announced, crypto is now legal currency, and then the next day it will be legal. There's so many other processes that you need to put into place. Even for something like a digital bank, there are a couple of digital banks that have been launched here in Malaysia. They still need some time before before the policy design, that is set up by Bank Negara, can be put in place so that they can roll these things out safely and carefully. So, you are aware that there's digital banks in Malaysia?
Banks.
Yeah, I think one's by Grab, right?
Yeah, GXB. That's the one that's just recently. I know it has been launched a couple of months ago, but they recently have started taking deposits.
Okay.
Right. So I just signed up for an account.
Yeah.
It's very easy, very intuitive. You just send in your phone number, verify, put up a PIN, and their KYC is using your IC, right? They take the front and back of your IC, and then they take a
facial recognition.
And this time I think it's more sophisticated. They want you to do a recording of your face, front, side, profile. Right, that's better than just taking a face, because face sometimes your face changes, your eyes.
You're wearing glasses, or your change hairstyle.
Yeah, exactly. So now they're having more sophisticated methods, and once your account is approved, they do the credit checks and all that. Then you'll have a digital bank account. You can start putting money in there. They offer some preferential interest rates from a deposit standpoint, and that's how they acquire customers. So maybe there will be some applications for blockchain within the financial sector, but right now, I think people are still very much focused on trading cryptocurrencies in different exchanges. And that, not to say that is not something good. Whenever there's an asset, people with demand and supply, people will want to transact it. It's okay, SC has launched a couple of, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency exchanges like Luno and others. So we wait and see to see whether this gains more mass traction or not. So you understand blockchain better now after explaining to you a bit better?
I understand better. When I edit this, I'll understand even better.
Oh, okay.
He's always been against cryptocurrency.
Yeah, so why are you against cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, so put this, because I'm very influenced by watching some videos on YouTube that show, of course, a very popular case is FTX, and then the fall of also other cryptocurrencies, right, that just suddenly crash. So what do you attribute that to? Like, why?
Well, people are always chasing fads, and sometimes they may not understand, the sort of like underlying economic arguments and also systems, architecture of a lot of these cryptocurrencies. So sometimes herd mentality lah. Yeah, herd mentality lah.
But is that the reason why, like, let's say for FTX, the reason why it failed is that one is...
Well, many reasons, but you should read a book by this author called Michael Lewis. I think it's called Against All Odds, talking about how he followed Sam Bankman-Fried and tried to understand what makes him tick and how he managed to do what he did, using FTX.
Correct me if I'm wrong, he was using the money invested to invest in his own. He had a separate company that he channeled money from FTX into that would make different kinds of payouts and wasn't very good in terms of corporate governance. And then when the money is spent on this private company side, he was gambling basically, is it?
Different things you can read about it online. And then suddenly the customers on the FTX app will be asking, hey, where's my money?
And delays come
so then the whole thing just collapsed and now he's facing time in jail and probably quite a long time as well.
Okay, so there's nothing you would say there's nothing to do with cryptocurrency itself.
So it's more to do with governance. right? Poor governance structures within the company, because there are crypto, exchanges even in Malaysia that are better governed, and those kinds of issues I think, are less likely to happen. But yeah, I mean, once FTX fell, it basically, put a dampener on the larger crypto space. But I still think that from a blockchain technology perspective, this is your Web3 kind of applications and stuff like that. There may still be use cases that we can apply to the consumer or the mass market later on in the future.
Okay,
We just have to wait and see.
Okay.
But in the meantime, get yourself educated, get myself educated, and then if you do want to invest in this area, go in with your eyes wide open.
Yeah.
What's next?
So many things. What's happening now in Gaza?
Sure. That one I think
come.
maybe I haven't talked about it.
We are okay. Have you talked about that before? No. Never. You all didn't plan on talking about that?
Just didn't come up.
Okay.
Vishnu, you have any thoughts on this?
I mean, I don't know what to think right now. What's happening is unfortunate.
No, it's more than unfortunate. It's a genocide or ethnic cleansing. I mean, just to put it in context, you have about 2 million people in Gaza. That's a very small piece of land.
Yes.
And you're not allowing only very limited quantities of food and water to go in. They have not had running water and electricity for, since October last year. That place has been bombed to death. You have 30,000 people who have died on the Palestinian side, 1,000 people who have been killed on October 7th, mostly on the Israeli side. So, this situation I think is untenable and not acceptable, especially in terms of the international political arena. Even the US is finding this strategy that's been, been rolled out by the Prime Minister of Israel, Bibi Netanyahu, to be, totally unacceptable. So, then the question would be, I think, for us as Malaysians, what do we want to do about this in ways that are practical? Right, we're not going to be able to send in much aid into Gaza because there are other aid agencies that can do it better for us. I think it's very clear that Prime Minister supports whatever action to pressure the Israeli regime to allow more humanitarian aid to go in and to try to find some resolution, including a ceasefire, to alleviate the kind of situation.
Sorry, can I ask? So I saw recently UN has called for immediate ceasefire, and what happens now that Israel is not obliging?
Yeah, so that a vote was put to the UN Security Council.
Yeah.
Right, there are the permanent and the non-permanent members lah. So for the permanent members, you have the 5 that emerged victorious after the Second World War. You're talking about US, Russia, China, France, and the UK.
Okay.
And for this particular vote, usually, for these kinds of votes, the US would veto, which means that you can't take the resolution forward for further action. But now, in this particular case, the US actually didn't veto. So the others voted in support.
Yeah.
And you are taking that resolution
So the
forward.
US is the only one that didn't.
Yeah, but the fact that they didn't veto is big enough of a deal, because it shows to the regime in Israel that they are not going to be able to count on US support, blind US support moving forward lah. So I think this is where more international pressure would be helpful to put pressure on the Israeli regime. And then for us, there are Palestinians here in Malaysia. Some of them, are refugees. They don't have refugee status because we don't recognize the UN Convention on Refugees. What can we do to help them? What can we do to maybe help their families that are still stuck in Gaza, right? So these are all very practical questions that can be answered, on a government basis, on a more personal basis. So for example, for me,
yes,
I sort of like work together with a social enterprise called Picha Eats, PICHA EATS.
Oh yeah, I saw it on social media.
Yeah, so they are an organization that actually employs cooks from the refugee community to prepare meals that Picha then sells to the mass market. I've been supporting them and buying their products, good quality food, healthy food, for a number of years already. So, some of the cooks that they employ are actually Palestinians, right? So how then do we try to help those here, the Palestinians here? It may be through Picha Eats as a social enterprise. It may be true, for example, in the education space, seeing how we can allow Palestinian academics to stay in Malaysia, to be part and parcel of the teaching and research ecosystem here. And we may even want to hire or attract Palestinian academics from other parts of the world that may have had to go back to Gaza or to the West Bank under normal circumstances, but they can't do so now. So we can bring them to Malaysia, not only for humanitarian purposes, but for them to come and teach and research
and contribute to our
to contribute to our higher education sector, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I think back to the whole war that's going on in Gaza, right? Like, I think a lot of people, I mean, on both sides, are wanting to have like a two-state solution, if I'm right.
Yeah, so
would that be accurate?
So the two-state solution has always been one that the US, the EU, even Malaysia, that is the line that most countries would hold on to. And the two-state solution basically means that Israel has to recognize the right for the Palestinians to have their own state, to have their own government, to have their own country, so to speak, within what are Israel's borders. And the two entities, the geographical entities that would comprise these two states would be Gaza on the southern side of Israel, and then also West Bank that borders Jordan.
Yeah, the East Jerusalem.
Yeah. So for the problem is, in West Bank, there have been so many Israeli settlers going in and taking territory and occupying that space that it is almost impossible, unless these settlers are evicted, which the Israeli government would not do. It's almost impossible for the Palestinians to have their own state in terms of controlling the borders. Right? And Israel does not want to allow them to control their borders. Even if, let's say, within West Bank, Israel would build walls that encroach into that territory. They will control movement of people in and out. It's nothing like what you would expect to a two-state solution to be like. And then because of what has happened in the Middle East, in Gaza, some countries or some politicians have even openly spoke about moving towards a position where it is a one-state solution. What does this mean? It means that they want to advocate for a Palestinian state. They would not recognize the existence of an Israeli state. Of course, the US is not going to accept this. EU is not going to accept this. But I think the atrocities, the genocide, the ethnic cleansing that is happening now in Gaza have shown the people, the global community, that it is very difficult to have a two-state solution, and Israel, as it stands, will not respect that kind of solution.
If Israel were to cease fire right now, and stop everything, what would the response from Palestine, your predicted response from Palestine be? Hamas?
So I think the rebuilding process will have to start. You have to put in humanitarian aid first, because you have a population of almost 2 million people that have been deprived of regular food and water for the last 6 months, 7 months, right? So the humanitarian part will have to go in, and then you have to put in some sort of a rebuilding plan, because all the houses and accommodation there, most of them have been destroyed or damaged by Israeli forces, right? So
sorry, has Netanyahu actually declared that it is ethnic cleansing that you're carrying out?
No, of course he won't say that. Of course he will never say that. No, but I think one of the things that you probably have to understand is, if a ceasefire is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
That means the focus on the military part of this exercise will stop, and the Israeli population would have time to look at the politics of it, which means they will probably force Netanyahu to step down as prime minister. He's facing a lot of corruption charges in the courts, and he will probably be removed, and he would likely face jail time. And this is what he's afraid of, which is why he is still wanting to continue the war effort, because of personal survival. Right?
Oh, okay, personal interest.
Yes, personal interest.
Okay, I see. So what is his end game?
His end game is to delay this as long as possible, and to find some sort of a way for him to stay out of jail and to
if
remain
needed
in power.
If needed is to eliminate completely Hamas.
No, you can't eliminate Hamas, because there are Hamas sympathizers or supporters within the Gaza community. Hamas won elections in the past legitimately in Gaza. And the Palestinian Authority, because of corruption, because of ineffectiveness, they are actually quite discredited among the Palestinian community in Gaza as well as in West Bank. Right. So this is the part and parcel of a larger political challenge lah. Imagine if, let's say, in Malaysia, for comparison purposes, suddenly the international community says, "Oh, UMNO, you go and rule Kelantan or Terengganu," even though PAS has won all of the seats there. PAS is the popular state government there. You ask UMNO to go in and rule without any
They'll be
legitimacy.
rejected.
Of course they'll be rejected, right? So same thing, if you don't want to work with Hamas, you bring in the Palestinian authorities. It's not to say that the local population in Gaza will accept the Palestinian Authority.
Okay.
Right? The PA is the legitimate and recognized government at the international level. But on the local level, it's quite different.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
What's your take like when we are talking about rebuilding Gaza and stuff, right? Obviously there were a lot of donations coming from Malaysia and all that. And then there was like this, I think the news broke out saying, I think one of the major
one of the NGOs,
so they've been like
fraud
So like what's the update like with that? Like are they going through
Is this a well-known NGO?
Yeah, it's called Aman Palestine, and it's been reported in the newspapers. Some of the people in the organization has been charged for fraud. So that case will be taken to the courts, and then in the meantime, I don't think people will continue to donate to this organization. But again, I think there are a lot of organizations out there that maybe claim to be able to deliver aid to Palestine. I think you have to check your sources properly. But like for me, I would much rather donate money, and I have, to organizations like the International Red Crescent and Red Cross, to Doctors Without Borders or Medicine Sans Frontiers, and other credible international organizations where the accountability is much higher.
I just saw recently, actually, there's a place where you can check all these all these NGOs, like how many percent that they're actually using for their own funding, and how many actually goes directly. And Red Cross is actually at the top.
It's one of the best run, I think, aid organizations. I've seen them do good work in Malaysia as well.
Okay.
Red Cross, Red Crescent. In Malaysia is Red Crescent, Bulan Sabit Merah.
This was a question I thought about. I actually wanted to start the podcast with this question, but so you've been in this political field for decades, and you're going to be meeting many politicians, and we're talking about like some of the most charismatic people, individuals, and especially in a group where everyone is a politician, right? You have to kind of stand out socially. So who, in your opinion, is the biggest joker? You might not agree with his ideas, but when you are with him in person, you just can't help but like the person.
Okay, I would say that the public image of this particular politician, makes him look like a bit of a joker. But in my interactions with him, and also in my meetings and also engagements with him, and also the way I see him, deliberate in Parliament and also debate in Parliament, he's actually a very meticulous and also a very hardworking guy. And his name is Ahmad Maslan, who was formerly under the Unity Government, the Deputy Minister of Finance, and now he's the Deputy Minister of Works. So people see him because of the different memes, him cooking nasi goreng
with the shell talks there.
During the COVID period, and a lot of funny expressions that he's that people have caught him giving. But in Parliament, he's actually very diligent. Whenever he debates, he has a lot of notes. He knows his brief well. He knows the policy issues quite well. And I do have a respect for him, in terms of how meticulous he is at presenting and debating issues.
Now that you mentioned it, actually Iqbal, Iqbal, right?
Yeah,
Iqbal also mentioned the same thing about Maslan.
Yeah, Iqbal is a social media influencer. Very interesting videos that he produces on social media.
Okay, this is another question. Like, someone who you've been on Keluar Sekejap also as well, right?
So far I'm the only guest who has been on Keluar Sekejap more than once. I've been
really
4 times.
4 times.
4 times. Once in English actually.
Okay. He's created a separate podcast now called Kindred Stories.
Yes, correct.
That is, I think, it's non-political, right?
More or less, more focusing on journey in terms of religious understanding from the Islamic perspective.
So maybe it's not your place to say, but this is from a listener question as well. Like, what are your thoughts on why KJ has not yet decided to go back into the political scene, or why is he holding out?
So I think that question applies to both Khairi as well as Shahril.
Sure.
Khairi has been expelled from the party. For Shahril, he has been suspended for 6 years. But it means that you can't really do anything within UMNO for 6 years, which again is sort of like
It's a long time.
It's a long time in politics, and it's sort of like basically your execution sentence from a political standpoint.
Yeah.
So I think both of them still have a lot to contribute in the political arena. This was also mentioned in a recent episode where they interviewed the Secretary General of DAP, Anthony Loke. Very good interview. And Anthony also said, both of them should come back into the political arena. I think that Khairi probably is still waiting for the right time and the right kind of
that's the big
signal.
question. What is the right? Any ideas? What it would be?
my thinking, based on what I know of Khairi, is that he still wants to probably go back to UMNO because it's a party that he grew up in. It's a party that he spent a lot of time and effort in. It's a party where he knows a lot of people, knows a lot of the leaders.
It's comfortable.
And also many people actually respect him because of the contributions he's made, because of the capabilities that he has. But I think under this current president, because there's been so much bad blood spilled between the two of them, I'm talking about Zahid Hamidi and Khairi, the pathway for him to go back into UMNO and to be rehabilitated within UMNO, to me at this point in time is not so clear.
Okay.
Right. So I think similarly for Shahril as well. So I think for Khairi is quite obvious, and he said this publicly as well. He wants to be Prime Minister. So for him to be Prime Minister, he needs, in his mind at least, he needs to be a leader in a Malay majority or a largely Malay party. Right. So that narrows his options. I've invited him to join the DAP, to be DAP's, perhaps considered to be DAP's Prime Minister candidate.
What was his response?
He was quite intrigued by it, but I think he also thinks that political reality in Malaysia means that the Prime Minister candidate has to come from a Malay majority party. So that's why I think he's still, more, more inclined towards rejoining UMNO, and even if, let's say, he were to join another political party, it would probably be a Malay majority party.
Okay, so talking about that, is it actually possible for a non-Bumi Putra to be a Prime Minister?
There's nothing in the constitution to deny that possibility. Okay. But reality in Malaysia is that it's a Malay Muslim majority country.
Yes.
And the political reality is that Malay Muslim would be
the most
the default for being a Prime Minister.
Okay, but on paper it is actually a possibility.
But I don't think there are non-Malay politicians out there who are trying to angle themselves or put themselves forward to be a Prime Minister candidate.
Just because it's too tough or impossible of a task.
If I were to ask you, who do you think would be a suitable Prime Minister candidate among non-Malay MPs?
I can't think one of that comes to mind.
Exactly.
Also,
So I don't think we've gotten to a stage where even if we want to think about a Barack Obama kind of situation, we don't have that candidate. And
I see.
And you also have to remember, for Barack Obama, right, he was a minority. Yes, he was African American. But imagine if, let's say, he was a Muslim. Do you think he could have been president in the US? I think probably not.
Yeah.
He still, comes from a Christian, perspective, Christian background. He went to a few churches. He went to, attended a AME church, which is basically, has African American roots in it. So, but in the Malaysian context, unless you can put forward a non-Malay Muslim candidate,
okay, then it's more
then
more
that would
possible.
be more sort of like similar to Barack Obama's situation. Right now, that's not the case.
I think I know a candidate.
Well, you can say. You can
Ong
say.
Kian Ming.
Hey, please, don't get me in trouble.
No, so you've never even has never even crossed your mind,
Look, I'm.
Like, you were young. You were like when you were way younger back then.
No.
Never.
First of all, I've never wanted to be in frontline politics.
Yeah. So because you mentioned this at the very start, you didn't aim from a young age, to be in politics. So how did that happen actually?
Yeah, so when I looked around and when I saw the situation in Parliament, it was very frustrating for me. I'm sure you are frustrated when
Sure.
the impression of MPs is them shouting at one another in Parliament for no apparent reason. And I thought I could contribute something a little different based on my background and try to chart a more policy-oriented way of discourse in the public, and political landscape. And I think I did that to a certain degree. I'm still doing it in my current capacity. So that was my entry into politics, and I'm very firm about that. Even on my podcast, Are We Okay? I talk. The tagline is what, we're trying to make public policy is relevant to the man on the street, to the person on the street, right? So that is my approach towards politics.
It's always been.
It's always been the case, and my conviction on this particular issue has increased since my days in frontline politics, that we need more politicians who can actually engage on the policy ecosystem.
So this will lead to a very interesting question by White_Vanilla Sky as well. Yeah, why can't our government attract smart, intelligent talent to work in the public sector, just like in Singapore? Let's also have smart politicians like yourself.
Okay, I need to address this in a very sensitive way, because I don't want to offend the civil service or my colleagues in Parliament. In my party or other parties.
Sure.
So, if you look at the civil service, I think by and large they do have a good stream of recruits into the JPA, or the Public Service Commission, the Jabatan Perkhidmatan Awam. It's a very competitive process. They hire very selectively, and the civil servants that I've worked with, in MITI, they're all very, very good, very professional, and very competent. I think where there are some gaps is whether or not the right people get promoted within the civil service, whether it is the ones who are competent from a policy and also from a sort of like a competency perspective, or is it those who are better in playing politics within the civil service?
Yeah.
Right? So that's one thing. If we want to improve, we have to improve those kinds of things. It's not just the recruitment part, it's actually the promotions, it's the training.
The selection.
The promotion. The selection part, I think maybe some tweaks here and there, So one example would be all the JPA scholars that we send overseas, when they come back, put them back into the system. So it's not automatic. In Singapore, if you're a PSC scholar, you have to work for the government. In Malaysia, if you're a JPA scholar, you come back. It's not. Sometimes the government will say, "Oh, we couldn't find a position."
Okay, I see.
And then they go out into the private sector. Right. So this is some of the things that we can talk about from a reform perspective. This on the civil service side, and we can have a separate podcast just to talk about this. On the politics side, I think in the past, especially in opposition politics, right, people of my background would not join opposition politics because the opportunity cost is just too high. I can earn much more in the private sector. I don't have to be afraid of getting arrested or sued or being pressured by the government. During the days when we were in opposition, but the tide started to change when Tony Pua joined DAP. So Tony Pua, sold off his company, his public listed company, cashed out and joined DAP full time in 2006. And that was when he started recruiting more quote unquote professional minded people to come in. People that he thought could lead the party in a different direction. And he got the buy-in of the then Secretary General, Lim Guan Eng. And that was when you saw people like Hannah Yeoh coming in, people like Teo Ni Ching coming in. Liu Chin-tong was already working in the party, so he I think worked quite well with Tony Pua. And then in the second wave in 2013, you got people like Yeo Bee Yin, Stephen Sim becoming MPs. Myself, I also came in during that time. And then in 2018, you saw a new group of Aduns coming in. You had people like Michelle Ng in Subang Jaya, Lim Yi Wei, and a few others as well. Rajiv, at Bukit Gasing Adun came in 2013. So you can see that process of trying to bring in more competent people. But at the same time, we also have to find the right balance. We still need the grassroots leaders that can reach out to the sort of like grassroots base, the non-Malay associations. And we need to combine the strengths of these groups within the organization of the party. So going back to that question, how then do you want to attract people? You need to start from sort of like the entry level. Work as special officers, work as maybe counselors, work as people in the in ministries and whatnot, especially now that we are in federal power. And then you start the process of identifying talent and giving them exposure, and the good ones, the ones that can adapt to this ecosystem, the political landscape, which is not easy. Then you give them the chance to contest in elections, whether at the state or at the parliamentary level. But and I can see that the DAP continues to be committed to this So if any professional wants to join a political party in Malaysia, I would still say the best opportunity, the best pathway for you to expose yourself to politics and to make a meaningful contribution would still be the DAP. But the pathway, I think, needs to be refined and made more transparent and efficient.
Okay.
Just got a question based on that, right? Why do you think in 2024 it's just seen by other opposition leaders and stuff, they really try to criminalize DAP as a party? Everything they say, ni semua salah DAP.
It's not 2024.
Yeah.
It started a long time ago. It started,
it's
way back in the 60s and 70s when DAP was first formed. And I think the idea is to make DAP a bogeyman, to use DAP to scare off the Malays to vote for parties in government. At the time would have been BN. Now the Perikatan Nasional is using the same kind of tactic. But of course, and I've said this even when I was an elected rep, sometimes DAP leaders give ammunition for the other side to attack us. So for example, YB Ngeku Ham, who is the MP for Beruas, he came out with a statement to say that, if there's going to be this committee that's looking into the Sharia laws, we need to have a non-Muslim to be in there. He came from a good place in the sense that he also wanted, because there are some Sharia laws that may affect the non-Muslim community, people who have maybe converted to Islam because of marriage, and then later after divorcing, they want to convert out of Islam. So these are issues, very thorny issues, very sensitive issues. But he made a mistake because this particular committee wasn't something that was set up by the government. It was something that was set up by the Majlis Raja, right? And after he said that statement, DAP was attacked, and probably rightly so because you are trying to interfere in the affairs of the Muslims. Later on, he had to backtrack and apologize when he understood the situation better. But it is these kinds of opportunities whereby when we make certain statements that are maybe not so well informed, you give ammunition to the other side to attack DAP.
Understand?
Yeah, and this is where I think better coordination, more sensitive thinking on the part of our elected reps would be important. So I have the advantage of being a former member of parliament in a constituency that's Malay majority. It's very rare among DAP MPs.
Serdang, is it the
Bangi.
same? Yeah, I know. But
Serdang,
how was Serdang?
Serdang was about that time was about 50% Chinese. About
it's majority
40% Malay and 10% Indian.
What about in Bangi?
In Bangi, because they redrew the lines, it became 51% Malay, 39% Chinese, and about 10% Indians. Now the percentage of Malays is moving up. So in that kind of constituency, right, I'm very cognizant of, or I try very hard to understand how Malay voters are thinking and feeling on a number of issues. And I also want to be. Right. So, for example, when I go and exercise in Bandar Baru Bangi, which is 90% Malay area on the track there, I will wear my shorts, but underneath my shorts I will wear tights that cover my knees.
I've seen.
So I'm very sensitive of that. Even though, if let's say I go as a non-Muslim person, I run in my shorts that don't cover my knees, it will not. It is not something that is wrong lah in the eyes of Muslim law.
Mm.
But because I want to show respect and sensitivity,
Yep.
I cover. Right, so that is something that is ingrained within me. I fasted full fast for Puasa month when I was MP for Serdang 2 years in a row. Right, so I know what it means to fast, so that I could show solidarity with the Muslim community in my constituency. But again, I'll be honest with you. Sometimes when I do these kinds of things, some people in my party may question me. Hey, how come you are so Melayu?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Are you trying to be more Melayu than the Chinese?
But they have to understand why the reason why.
No, I mean most of them do lah. Most of them understand. But sometimes at the back of their mind, they would think that, hey, you are not really
Genuine.
You're not being yourself. Is it? That's what they're thinking.
or they are thinking that you are not really us lah. You're not really us, meaning you are not defending the non-Malay ground. You are trying too much to assimilate, right? Because this is something that the Chinese community is very sensitive about. The argument or the perception that the Malay community, the government is trying to force the Chinese to assimilate, which is why one of the issues that I don't really want to go into in detail. The Chinese are so protective of vernacular education because it's one of the last things, in the Malaysian political landscape that the Chinese or the Indian community feel that they can control. This is my culture, this is my language, this is my community. I want it to be preserved. Other stuff in the government, you already dominate, you meaning the Malay community. So all these kind of sensitivities, right? We actually need to have an honest conversation lah.
Yeah.
But in Malaysia, I don't think we're ready for it at this point in
Exactly.
time.
Yep.
Look at the whole debate about KK Mat.
Yeah.
You can see there's a very obvious, religious and ethnic polarization, in terms of who's taking, different views on that particular issue.
Okay, I mean you don't have to go into too in detail lah, but what the vernacular school thing. So there is no for you like there's just no proper argument why it should be abolished.
No, okay, so you went to a sekolah kebangsaan.
Yes,
I went to a sekolah kebangsaan.
Sure.
I learned Chinese on my own, especially after politics.
Yeah.
And I respect the position of the Chinese and the Indian community to preserve vernacular education.
Understand.
The reason is this lah, few reasons lah. One is, like I said, it is one of the last vestiges where there can be some element of sort of like control over your own identity. That's one. Second thing is the argument that vernacular schools are the cause of disunity in Malaysia, right? I think is not true.
Yeah.
Because you look at the US, they don't have vernacular schools. Everyone is taught in English. Do they have ethnic tensions between the whites, the blacks, sometimes even the Latinos? They do. In Malaysia, if you are going to abolish vernacular schools overnight, do you think the ethnic tensions are going to go away?
I don't see the relation at all, honestly.
No, exactly. So the people who actually make this kind of argument, right, they are not on very strong, academic, comparative politics or even policy grounds lah. So it is a red herring. It is a red herring to me in the sense that this is something that you want to target because it's convenient, because it doesn't sit right with you. And also there's a further argument now, which is now with the rise of China as an economic powerhouse, with the rise of India as an economic powerhouse, there are good economic reasons to preserve the teaching of Mandarin, for example, to preserve the teaching of Tamil, although I know in India the main language is still Hindu. Right, but still, that shows a certain level of cultural affinity, and not many people know this lah. The number of non-Chinese who are enrolling in Chinese vernacular schools is increasing. In some places in Sabah and Sarawak, especially in Sarawak, the majority of students in some of the more rural and semi-urban Chinese schools are actually non-Chinese.
There was a headline that came up that like there was only I guess less than 10% that were non-Chinese.
No, there are Malay. There are some places is Malay majority, 100% Malays in Chinese schools.
No, that's that one.
That's
came
the headline.
out.
Yes.
Yeah, it came out. But you're saying that there's actually a lot of Chinese schools where it's just majority Malay also.
Or majority Sarawak Bumi Putra.
Yeah, majority
Ibans,
non-Chinese.
for example. Yes.
Okay.
So I mean, I would say that the Chinese schools, the Tamil schools, there are other challenges that they face lah. Because, for example, their syllabus is actually very rigid. There's very little room for creative thinking and discussion. It's very rote learning. those are things that actually many parents don't like. So after 6 years of Chinese education, they won't send their kids to independent Chinese school anymore because it's too rigid. Those things needs to be, I think, changed with the right kind of trust, in the ecosystem. But that also has to be acknowledged. The examples that I talked about just now, the more non-Chinese that are sending their schools they're sending their kids to Chinese schools. Yeah.
Okay, this is a very general one. Amongst our present and previous PMs, which has been the best serving and least, in your opinion, and why?
I think each PM, the history books will judge them in terms of their contributions. I think from an academic standpoint, I've seen a lot of positive contributions of different prime ministers, being brought up into attention after they step down. So, for example, for Pak La, for example, he's seen as somebody who may have been not so effective when he was in power. But there are a lot of things to do with GLC reform, GLC professionalization, including using Khazanah as a vehicle that was implemented during his time. So all the GLC transformation kind of initiatives were done under his time. The establishment of the Iskandar Regional Development Authority, IRDA, that had a very good master plan, driven by Khazanah, to make Johor Bahru or Iskandar some sort of a Shenzhen, to Singapore's Hong Kong. That was done under Pak last time. That had a few road bumps along the way, but this is the basis of the Johor Singapore Special Economic Zone. I think even for somebody like Najib, people remember him for 1MDB.
Yes.
But at the same time, I think credit has got to be given to him for putting in place the structures and the policies for the government transformation program, the economic transformation program. I don't agree with everything that was done under these programs, but at least there was a vision. There was a way in which these things could be implemented and thought through. And there was a plan, and that could have been executed much better if there was better policy alignment among the different stakeholders in government. So I think each prime minister has their own strengths, have their own weaknesses. I think let history be the judge of that. And in the meantime, I think just as a parting word, I hope that the different policy makers can do their best to assist Prime Minister Anwar and his team in cabinet to make Malaysia a more economically and socially vibrant and progressive country.
Okay, beautiful. Yeah. Guys, go and check out Ong Kian Ming and Peter's podcast, Mr. Money TV. You may know him as Are We Okay? The podcast is called. Check them out on Spotify, YouTube, all streaming platforms. It's policy based. Yeah, policy based. Do you guys talk about other topics? Not really, right?
We've interviewed the managing partner of Accenture here in Malaysia to talk more about corporate strategy. We want to engage with different people in different parts of the economy. So we're trying to broaden our areas of coverage.
Okay, awesome. All right, guys. If you've listened up to this point, it's been about 90 minutes already. I think it wouldn't be so hard for you to just do me a simple favor, and would really appreciate it if you could click the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment, your thoughts on this episode, potential future guests that you would like to see. I'm always open to suggestions. If you would like to see OKM back on this podcast, leave your thoughts down there. And yeah, guys, give it up for Ong Kian Ming. Thank you so much for coming to do the podcast, and I would love to have you on again next time.
Thanks for having me, and all the best.
Okay, right. Thank you, guys. See you in the next episode, and thanks, Vishnu.
Goreng kampung, goreng Cina, nasi goreng Pattaya. Burger ayam, burger daging, burger special double cheese. Ada bawang, ada mayo, ada sauce, ada ghee. If you want a custom burger, we can also do. Kamau daging uni telur. 1 to 20, I go 20, all kinds, very nice. Teh tarik, teh halia, teh panas, teh ais. Ada cola, ada